Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Terrance.
No problem. What's your name?
My name's Margaret Martin, and I'm here from the Edmonton area. Traveled down to Calgary, pick up a colleague from Protecting Canadian Children, an organization I'm with, and then we did the drive into the Vancouver area, all throughout BC.
Okay. And why are you here in Vancouver? What's the purpose of this trip?
We were invited as guests of an organization, a number of people advocating in the province for families who've been wronged by Child Protective Services, MCFD.
So Ministry of Child and Family Destruction, or is it development?
One would wonder.
Okay. Maybe you could give us a little bit of information on MCFD for those people that are looking right now and really don't know what MCFD does.
Well, MCFD, there's a number of acronyms which come across Canada, US, Britain. CAS, Children's Services, Human Services in Alberta. What it is just an umbrella, a realm of a government that deals with the protection of children. And initially, and I think the background on it is positive. I mean, it's there to help families who are in circumstances. Families, we typically look at, if you look at the stigma issue, typically people believe that children's services interfere in families which there are cases of abuse. And that can be the case. But the majority of persons involved with the ministry are actually people that are just facing extraordinary circumstances.
Maybe give us an example of the new target, if you want to call it that, of MCFD.
Oh, MCFD initially had been targeting people who were, I'm going to say, more easily.
Maybe you could give us an idea of the old target and then the new target of Ministry of Child and Family Development.
All right. The main reason why we are here is to deal with the representation of the old target, which are Aboriginal families, Native families who were easily targeted, minority group who easily been silenced. Now what's happening more so in this day and age is we're seeing targeting of a lot of different groups, doesn't matter nationality, color, creed, even the issue of persons who are wealthy are no longer
so
protected.
there's no longer a financial what would you call it, line that they cross? No.
You're going to run into, we've run into families anyway, where very wealthy families.
Yes.
Perhaps, for an example, a wife who's married into a successful lawyer, police officer, what have you.
Okay.
Marriage breaks down. There's a lot of influences, and it can be quite negative, no matter how much money is involved.
Yeah.
Targeting again of the targeting of people, not just natives, but persons with disability, has been long running.
Yes.
We've, in the province of Alberta, just reached the 40th anniversary free of sterilization of persons.
Now, what is this sterilization? A little while ago we were talking about sterilization, and I had no clue, and I'll tell you the truth, I haven't looked into it. I've been looking into MCFD themselves and how they operate, but you were telling me about sterilization. You mean making sure that people cannot have children.
Absolutely.
Which, if inflicted by our government, is genocide.
Genocide. Eugenics, yes. Yes, this year in Alberta marks the 40th anniversary of persons being free of sterilization. There are two women in the province of Alberta who stepped forward to speak, who were successful in launching a lawsuit against the government for the wrongs that were done to them. So persons who are considered undesirable, Aboriginal persons, persons with disability, persons who had a history of psychiatric difficulties.
Yes.
All
Mental
these persons
disorders, anything.
were children that were in foster care. So, for instance, the story of Judy Litton, one of the women who stepped forward with her story, she was a young girl, abandoned, so in foster care. When she was approximately 10 years of age, she was told by her caregivers that she was going to have an appendectomy.
Okay.
And little Judy, at that time, although she was deemed, I had asked her why she believed she was sterilized. She was born premature. She had very crossed eyes at the time, so the appearance made her look as if she was deficit in intelligence, which was not the case at all.
Yeah.
So she argued with the persons and said, no, I have a scar. I've already had my appendix out. And they said, no, trust us. You need to have this done. So she underwent this surgery.
And she was in care.
She was in care.
Okay.
So she didn't actually understand what had happened to her until she grew up. Now she's a married woman. She's been married 30 years to a wonderful man. When they were a young couple, they, like most people, decided to have children, found out this wasn't happening, so they looked into medically what was the basis of this.
Yeah.
And that's when they learned that she had been sterilized. And so the doctor wanted to do exploratory surgery to see if this was correctable. And when they went in, her fallopian tubes had been sliced all the way down to ensure that this would not ever happen. It was non-correctable. And this is what people were facing, and these are like.
And so there's thousands of people over what, 50 years or so that have had this done?
Yeah, there is actually in Alberta, the University of Alberta has a program, and it's you can look up the Living Archives on Eugenics in Western Canada. So this includes also BC.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
So getting back to this rally, which is why you're actually here today, when is this taking place?
This is transpiring on the 31st of January, so Thursday, at 11 a.m. And I'm unclear how long it will go on, but I anticipate it will go on for several hours.
And where is it starting? Is it Victory Square?
Women's Community Center, I think.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Terrance. Yeah, I need to look that up.
So the path of this will end at, does anybody know? Oh no, really?
Yeah, unfortunately I don't. We need to touch base with Tammy Lynn, who has, because I'm not from the area, I'm not sure what the locations are.
Okay. All right. And so there's estimated to be roughly about how many people at this rally?
Well, we hope we have confirmed approximately 75, I believe it is at this point. Hopefully more.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming and giving us a little bit of information on what's actually happening in the world. And I'll definitely have you on, and we'll try and take some footage of you in the rally, and you're giving a speech, I believe, right?
Yes, there'll be several people who will be talking about their personal instances.
Okay.
Which is very, in and of itself, is an entire issue, because most people are not able to speak about their situations. They're silenced by the government.
And when you say silenced, what do you mean by that? Is it against the law for them to talk about their...
It is absolutely against the law to speak about your particular case. For instance, my background is I have a child who passed away. I was unable to speak about my daughter, Samantha Martin, who I can now, because I had successfully had the publication ban lifted in our province. To do so was a feat. I had to express, first of all, the basis of a publication ban is, the grounds are good on the surface. It's to protect the identity of a child.
The child, yes.
So I needed to argue, well, my child needed protection in life, in death. She's safe now. So the only persons who are being protected are those who did the wrongdoing.
Exactly.
So if we're going to learn from these errors and we're going to move forward and prevent deaths and harm to children in the future, we need to speak about them and we need to stop the silence. So yes, in Alberta, and I assume that it would be similar across the different provinces, but the fine for breaching publication ban is $10,000 and 6 months jail time.
And 6 months jail time. So now, can someone else talk about your story?
If they did so as a pseudonym and with non-identifying information.
Okay. All right.
So yes, you have cases such as in Alberta, another woman who goes by the pseudonym of Marie was a woman with MS whose disease was progressing. So she did the responsible thing, single mom, 2 children, approached Children's Services to ask for assistance. Was told instead that they could not help her, that they would offer her adoption information for her children.
Really?
Really. So she was quite smart and went public under a pseudonym to tell her story, and the public was outraged that this wonderful mother who, through no fault of her own, but an actual disease that strikes
her down.
anybody,
Yeah.
and they were trying to take her children away. So ministry said, no, it's a misunderstanding. We will, of course, help this mother. And that did transpire for probably about 3 months. When the media died off, ministry personnel went back to her and said, no, I'm sorry, but we cannot afford to help you, continue to help you. So she was back in the same predicament, terrified for the loss of her children, and ended up fleeing Alberta in order to protect her family. So this is the sort of instances when I think this is also why I need to continue to speak beyond my personal case. I had once thought I was extraordinary. I didn't understand why all this was happening to me. I was a mom. I have 4 other children who are always with me. Hospital spokesperson. This happened to me. I'm white. I'm educated. It still happened to me. So what's going on here? And for all the persons who may not have had a good beginning, who grew up in foster care and are now targeted, somebody needs to be their voice.
Exactly. And I think part of what this attack is that they attack people and they continue to attack people. And if you're not educated or you're not outspoken, they wear you down mentally.
Definitely.
Yeah. And financially and emotionally.
Emotionally. And as I say, the stigma involved, most people don't want to step forward. They're ashamed. They shouldn't be, but you're made to feel that way. And I know personally, as I say, the issue behind my child being in foster care was she was born with disability. We were informed as a natural family that Samantha could not attain the help that she required, that she would require to live.
Yes. If
she remained in our home, she needed to live in a government foster home under their realm where she could access services. So it was through no fault of our own. We were guided into this, forced into this belief that we were doing the right thing for our child to help protect her life. So even so, the social workers that we ended up meeting throughout the years were different social workers, lost sight of that. I don't know if they become acclimatized to dealing with poor families, desensitized, and begin to treat everybody the same way, lose sight of what their profession actually is, social work to bolster families, to help them in times of crisis. But there's definitely stigma, and people are talked down to, and I know I've had it happen to myself.
Yes. And
this is where, as again, I want to speak because I typically don't like speaking publicly.
Yes.
But this is oppression to persons who are so vulnerable, and as you say, they're going through all the steps that we're guided to. You approach your child advocate, you approach your ombudsman, you approach all these different avenues. But in reality, when you do, what happens is you face these offices who say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Exactly. And then
They
you're
send-
guided into a box.
They send you somewhere else. It's like this circular deflection of responsibility, and
Yes.
children end up dying
Yeah.
in that time. Yeah, it's frightening.
So what do you feel needs to be done in this? I mean, let's just specifically deal with MCFD and CPS and CAS. Where do you find the first problem?
I think the policies are wonderful.
Okay.
If you read through the acts, the policies in place are written very well. They're well researched. I think we've done a lot of work.
Too researched.
Too researched.
Because it can be taken, it's in the interpretation of the language.
Exactly. And the interpretation, I think that's problematic because I believe it's actually purposely worded that way.
Yes.
To avoid responsibility, and that's
Liability.
the problem. Government persons are not held to the same standards as the regular public.
Yes.
And that in itself, nobody should be above the law.
Yes.
Government employees, ministry employees, nobody should be above the law. Police should be able to examine what is going on.
Yes.
I think it needs to come to a federal level so that government employees are being policed themselves.
You know, I've been dealing with a lot of different people. I get so many phone calls and I'm overwhelmed. And every single person that I talk to that has been in this 3 to 6 months and has help or has some idea of what's going on, the word that reigns true every single time is accountability. Now, currently in this system, these officials who are responsible for the future of our country, our children's education, their well-being, are not held accountable.
Absolutely.
Why do you think this is? What is that? I mean, if you're a criminal and you get charged with dealing a kilo or an eighth of weed, you are held accountable by going to jail and paying a fine, and you do your time and you come out and you're still held accountable. Why is it the most valuable commodity that our country has?
It's too valued. I don't know the answer to that, Terrance. I'm still trying to work that out. One of the largest problems that I still struggle with is because the way I was raised, you do the right thing.
Yes.
You if you run into problems, you go to authority figures.
Yes.
I was taught to respect them. It was very sobering to learn that these persons that we are taught in our entire lives to trust and to come forward to may not be worthy of that respect.
So are you maybe kind of talking about collusion? Is that maybe where we're headed with this?
There's definitely, I mean, I have, on tape, I have officials telling me, for example, the persons that were responsible in my daughter's case, can we, the department, take action against a foster family? I don't think so. They're our employee.
Yes.
I mean, that's on tape.
Yeah.
These are big officials. And that's what it comes down to, them or the children. And another example, during my daughter's fatality, was the children's services. Children's services lawyer representing, I asked for a witness to come in and was told that the witness was not allowed. It was another child that was in the home. And I realized my daughter can't be helped. She's passed away, but this child is a living child that was also in the home.
Yes.
I asked the court for him to have his say.
Yes.
And I was told by the ministry lawyer that that wasn't going to happen, that this is a fatality about one child.
Okay.
I said, but what about the living child?
Yes.
And she said, no, I'm here to represent Children's Services. I said, exactly. Well, Children's Services is there to represent the children. She said, no, I'm here to represent children's services. And I said, oh, so as an industry,
Yes.
not as in protecting the children. And that's what the problem is. It's a business.
It is a business. I think what people need to look at is the puppy mill of money that happens to flow into our economy.
Mm-hmm.
And someone had told me when I was in court, when I first got into this stuff, that when you're in court fighting for what is rightfully yours, which is your child, you are the only person there that's not getting paid.
Absolutely. If you look at, I couldn't even begin to tell you how many hours I have poured into my case, other person's cases. Literally, you'd be awake 24 hours a day, and there still would be not enough time to pursue these issues. And as you say, phone calls constantly, emails of persons just seeking help, just in horrific situations. Mothers who
Thought that they did the right
thought
thing.
that they did the right thing, left an abusive relationship, went to a women's shelter later on. Then they're told, well, you have dealings with children's services. Well, I left an abusive spouse to protect my child. I went to a women's shelter. That's held against them. Men too, men that are targeted. It's
And I'm going to stop you there because I've been dealing with a lot of men that are going through this, and we can take this journey into the family court system, because in the family court system, as soon as the woman reports domestic abuse, every single right awarded to that man is thrown out the window, because unlike criminal court, you're guilty until proven innocent.
absolutely, it's a very adversarial process. And a gentleman that I know, also another victim, he explained it this way: why, if we're dealing with these issues, if parents are, father for instance is that bad, charge him. Bring it. Let's go through the process. And if he is not guilty, then let's end this, instead of bringing this into family court.
Yes.
And it goes on for months and years. And nobody is benefiting. Certainly not the father, not the mother,
Not
but
the
particularly
children.
not the child.
Exactly. Some solutions that you might offer with inside of the family court. I know that in the last year, there's been an urgency to rush through family courts because of the lack of backlog of cases, period. Not just criminal or family or civil, but cases, period. How do you see this affecting apprehensions, or, for example, cases of fathers being charged with domestic abuse, or mothers being charged by the ministry? How is this affecting it? And we'll stop there. Go ahead.
Well, what I've seen, I've had very little experience with family court. I've actually...
Oh, really?
Because I've only gone through a criminal, well, it's not even criminal, fatality inquiry.
Okay.
So I only know bits and pieces through learning other person's stories.
Yes.
But I'm seeing a lot of backlog because there's a lot of frivolous issues that are being brought forward. And generally a judge is not seized to a case. So when you go in, one judge hears the beginning of a story, says, oh, we don't have time to listen to this, brings it forward, moves forward to another case. Another judge